Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. This week we are going to be real movie nerds because we are going to be looking at Oscar nominations.
We are.
And we've mentioned before, we are not typically like really into the critical response and especially the way it goes with the Oscars.
Yeah.
In fact, even last year, which the Oscars were the sort of everything everywhere all at once Oscars, like that movie just cleaned house there. And I kind of thought like, I might just be out on the Oscars.
Same.
I think I'm just done.
That movie is
caring.
just okay.
Yeah.
And it just, it won everything.
And here we are 1 year later, and it's The Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
I know.
And it's
it was an interesting movie year for the Oscars. There was some interesting stuff.
I think that's the reality of what it is we felt like last year was a really good year, and a lot of the movies we liked are engaged in this conversation, and so it just goes, okay, well, all right. If I think that my movies that I like are going to be represented, they're going to be talked about, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Give this a shot.
Sure.
So before we get into that, though, we have to do a little aside, a little sort of warm up by talking about the movie that you saw yesterday because you finally got to see the movie that was, I believe, number 2 on my.
Was it 2 or 3? I think it was 3, wasn't it?
It might have been. It was 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I felt really good about it.
I think you might be right. I think it was 2.
I think it was 2. Yeah. So you saw Godzilla Minus One last night, and I have to have your thoughts.
Yeah. So I finally got to see it. So my ultimate takeaway was I'm really glad I didn't see it before we did our list, because it would have been really hard to try and work it into my top 5. Because that movie is awesome. Mm-hmm. And I think it would have been in my top 5. But it would have been really hard to rework the puzzle pieces because of the movies I already had. But, it was awesome. A great combination of spectacle and story.
Yes.
I really thought that. I really did. Not a complex story, but a story.
Right.
And I cared about these people.
Enough to get your heart into it.
Yes, I cared about this kind of makeshift family that was formed. I'm not even going to try and say their names because I'll just butcher it, and I don't want to do that. But I was really invested in them and their kind of journey. And like I said, the right amount of spectacle, too. Of course, it's a Godzilla movie. Mm-hmm. You want the spectacle, and you get it, but it kind of leaves you always wanting a little bit more.
Yeah.
Every attack or every Godzilla scene, they're not just kind of thrown out there for no reason. They all are impactful in one way or another. And then because you have these characters you care about, you're fully invested. When they were hatching their plan to take down Godzilla, I was kind of like leaned up listening to it or reading the subtitles, I guess. And it's like, okay, I really want this plan to work because I want these characters to succeed and to find happiness. And man, I was just... What a well-done movie. Also, aside to that is that I got to see it in black and white. So, first time I've seen it, so I don't have a comparison to seeing it in color. The black and white, to me, though, it felt right. For a Godzilla movie, for a movie taking place in the 40s. I thought it fit really well. So, just, I don't have one bad thing to say about that movie.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that you liked it. Because again, I've been championing it. I've been hyping it up, and there's a little bit of nervousness. Like, oh no, I hope the person I've been hyping it up to see it and agrees. And so, I'm very glad to hear you say that. I was really curious to hear your thoughts on. I don't think I'm alone in this. I think a number of people have drawn parallels or like that there's little homages to Jaws in the movie. Mm-hmm. Were you picking up on that at all?
I did notice that. Yeah, I definitely did. And hey, I don't know why more people don't have little throwbacks and homages to Jaws. It's one of the greatest achievements in movie history. So
absolutely. But there's definitely those moments when they're on that little rickety boat and Godzilla's coming up behind them and you're just like, this is the best not recreation of a Jaws scene, but the best closest I've ever felt to watching Jaws outside of a Jaws movie.
No, I loved it so much, and I'm blown away because I did a little research last night after I watched the movie, and I saw that the budget for that movie. I saw one thing that said $10 million. I saw something else that said maybe like $20 to $25 million. Yeah, and I just thought, man, what a joke to all these movies that come out. Like, here's a comparison.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, the Godzilla times Kong movie, I bet you costs
$250 million. I saw a trailer for that last night before watching Godzilla Minus One. I wouldn't walk across the street to watch that movie.
No.
And there's not one interesting thing in that trailer. Not one interesting shot. Nothing. Zero. But then I was, so I was like trying to find a movie to compare that budget to. So like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny that came out this summer, which was on my worst of the year list and looked terrible. Like they did like de-aging on Harrison Ford that looked bad. $295 million budget. Now I understand every penny of the budget doesn't go to the effect, Harrison Ford, I'm sure, but it's just like Godzilla Minus One, very, very small budget, and it looked great, I thought.
It looked amazing.
It looked great.
I couldn't believe it wasn't a $100 million movie.
Indiana Jones, massive budget, looked terrible up on the screen, I thought, and was a terrible movie. There's, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from something like Godzilla Minus One.
Yeah, they definitely crushed it with the subtlety.
Yeah.
I always just say that. That's what Godzilla times Kong is coming out looks like. 0% subtlety.
Yeah.
It is so just loud in your face.
Yes.
And Godzilla Minus One is such a throwback to old school monster movies where it's like we're going to build tension. I love that Godzilla was just a villain in this movie. He was just a scary monster.
Yes, they didn't try and humanize him in any way because a lot of these movies now they want to do that. Find some kind of
make him the hero. Make him the you can sell kids toys as
yes,
you can be
they weren't interested in that at all. And I thought it was just because I grew up, I would rent or they'd be like on USA, like the old Godzilla movies. And I thought it looked like those old Godzilla movies, but not cheesy. Like, like they captured the look and the feel of those old time movies, but it looked good. I don't know. I'm not saying that very well, probably, but
and they did sort of purposely too. Like, it's definitely not accidental. They wanted it to. I mean, even the Godzilla look, they're like, we want it to look a little more like that old school man in a suit style. But
and they did it without sacrificing quality, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And they didn't try and like we talk about a lot. Like they weren't worried about what can we do. Like there's no scenes of Godzilla, jumping through the air. I mean, he just slowly. Kind of when he's on land, he
trudges
very slowly, just kind of, goes along. They weren't trying to do anything neat or fancy. All the ocean stuff was awesome. Yeah. Like I love creature in an ocean, probably because of my love for Jaws, I would say. And I thought that all looked great. Like you said, when he's chasing that rickety old boat, that looked phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm like, going, this has got to be an $80 to $100 million movie.
Yeah.
And no.
It's definitely, I think, also the best use of the Godzilla heat ray, where it is like this super destructive, and of course it's meant to mirror the nuclear blast because it's even got its mushroom cloud that comes from it. But when it happens in the one city that he does it in, and it just destroys everything. It's like, oh my! It really made Godzilla so scary.
It was he was so effective. The look of him was great. Mm. Like I said, I just can't think of a negative.
Yeah.
Just more than anything, I just think an unbelievable, like I said, balance of spectacle with story. And you nailed it when you did your best stuff. It makes those other movies even more of an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Like I said, I saw the trailer for Godzilla X Kong, and I thought I literally wouldn't walk across the street to go see that movie.
Yeah. I would tell everyone if you have the opportunity to watch Godzilla Minus One for the 10th time or Kong versus Godzilla or whatever, go see Godzilla Minus One.
Oh, again. Absolutely! Don't waste 1 second of your time on any of these Godzilla Kong crossover movies. They're all terrible,
horrible.
Yep, just a huge success, and I hope that because it's doing well, it's making money.
Yeah.
I hope that opens the doors for more filmmakers to realize that you can have the destruction and the chaos, and you can make a monster movie, but it doesn't mean it has to just be a dumb, lifeless movie. Like I said, this was not a complex story, but they spent time establishing these characters, and they gave him some motivation, and they just did little things that people don't bother to do that add so much. So kudos to everyone involved because that movie was phenomenal and really cool to see in black and white up on the big screen. My first time ever, I think, seeing an all black and white movie on the big screen, I would assume.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know that I've ever seen a black and white movie, but I'm definitely curious. I'll likely try to find time to go see it a third time at theater so I can see this black and white experience. Because I heard it's not even one where they just said, okay, let's just turn the saturation down until it's all black and white. they actually went through all the shots and like
made them
change the colorization to make it look right in black and white and to work to the way they wanted it to.
I thought it looked great on the big screen, and it fit. Like I said, it fit for the movie because it made you feel like you're watching the old school Godzilla movies, except now with the modern technology and everything.
And they do the last thing I'll say is they do a great little thing. Much like the modern, the Creed movies will do tributes to Rocky music. They do when Godzilla comes into town, they do the throwback old style Godzilla music, and it
works.
It works.
It all worked. And they didn't. I like too that they didn't try to. They didn't give you any Godzilla. They didn't try to build a mythology for Godzilla.
Right.
He was just there, and that's it. They didn't give you any more information than you needed.
Yeah.
Here's Godzilla. He's a bad guy and he wants to destroy everything. That's all it is.
Yep.
No, they didn't try to, no backstory, no mythology, nothing.
Yeah. I said on the last thing I'll say, but this is the last thing that I will say about this is, reading in the trivia, I thought it was fascinating. The Godzilla Minus One title came from like after World War II. They were at ground zero.
Yep.
So
and now
ground zero, they're
even worse.
They're basically at -1 after Godzilla. And I was like, that's actually like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And when it first came out and I saw Godzilla Minus One, it's like that must be something lost in the translation,
right?
That I'm not understanding.
I thought the same thing.
But no, it's actually a cool name when I realized that.
Yeah.
We're one level below ground zero.
I know, it's really clever. And so if you listen to this podcast, give Godzilla Minus One a chance. It is excellent. It absolutely blows the American, all this Godzilla world we've got going on, completely blows it away.
Absolutely. All right. Oh, man, I'm so glad we got to do that.
I am too. I was so excited. Usually we don't say anything to each other, but I did text you last night, and I was like, I loved Godzilla Minus One. That's all I said.
Yep.
And then we agreed to take a few minutes to talk about it today. So
right. So maybe that'll be the populist part that everyone will appreciate as we talk about a specific movie. And we're going to talk about movies as we do this. But it was, for movie people, a big week as the Oscar nominations came out. A lot of speculation leading up to it. Other award shows that have taken place that gave clues as to what might be successful. But ultimately, if you're like us, you're not really in the weeds of like movie awards and criticism.
Well, there's so many award shows.
The Academy Awards, it's sort of the one you focus on.
It is. There's so many award shows. I can't keep track of. I don't have time to invest in all of them.
Yeah. So I, a little again set up behind the scenes. I messaged you yesterday. I said, let's go through the awards, and I said, what I think we should do is just hit the sort of big six. That's the 4 acting categories: Best Director, Best Picture. We could probably go a little more in the weeds with like writing and cinematography and stuff, but I think just to keep this again as less nerdy as possible.
We start talking about what's going to win sound effects editing. People will just go to sleep.
Right. So we're going to try to do the awards that people want, the awards that most people care about. Plus, I just think they're the most fun ones to talk about. And frankly, like we could get into cinematography and stuff, but am I really that educated on it? No, I'm just like, what looked cool? So,
I know. I mean, I just Killers of the Flower Moon probably is going to win that, I would guess. But I don't know.
Very good chance.
Yeah.
So let's start. We'll sort of build our way up. Let's start with the supporting categories. So what I'll do is I'll read who was nominated, and then we can talk a little bit about what we think about those nominations. We can talk about some of the people that are absent from those nominations, and then I asked if we wanted to rank your preference for winners out of those. So that's what I've got is a list of absent people from the nominations and a list, sort of a ranking for these. So what we got for actress in a supporting role is we've got Emily Blunt from Oppenheimer. We've got Danielle Brooks from The Color Purple. America Ferrara from Barbie. Jodie Foster from Nyad. And Divine Joy Randolph from The Holdovers.
Yeah.
I wrote on there sort of noticeably absent, not one that I'm particularly disappointed didn't make it or anything, but Julianne Moore for May December was one I heard a lot about. I saw the movie. It's fine. She's good in it.
She's good in it.
I'm more surprised because I think the Academy loves
Julianne Moore.
And it seemed like an Academy-type movie.
It did.
So I was a little surprised Julianne Moore was
left
off.
It didn't get any Academy love at all, did it?
It did not.
Yeah.
And one of my notes, now maybe jumping the gun here, kind of my big picture notes I wrote at the end was streaming movies didn't get a lot of love this year. It felt like a couple of years ago, like the Academy was starting to be more accepting of streaming movies. But I was looking at May, December. A lot of people thought was going to be a big awards movie. Got completely shut out.
Yep.
Air, which went basically straight to Prime. It was in theaters for a minute.
I was disappointed in that.
It got shut out. The Killer got shut out. Like no nominations. And I was thinking like, well, was there a big streaming movie that got a lot of nominations? And I don't think there's a single movie that was a straight to streamer or mainly streamer that got much love this year.
Well, it was such a success. A lot of it due to Barbenheimer, but it was such a successful theater year.
Yeah.
So that may have played into.
And for sure, yeah. Like there was a lot of other good options, but I think it just kind of showed the Academy when they didn't have to recognize streaming movies, they were happy to not recognize streaming movies.
I agree completely. May, December was definitely the most notable. Because listening to like the Big Picture or something when that was coming out, and they were saying that too. Like I would expect a lot of Oscar nominations, and Julianne Moore, like you said, the Academy, she's been nominated like 6 or 7 times. She's won. Yeah. So,
and then the other one I wrote is absent. And this one I actually would have liked to have seen get on there is Penelope Cruz for Ferrari.
I had that written down too.
She's the one I would love to have squeezed in there. And we could say in a minute, I could very easily pick who I would love to bump out of.
I know exactly who you want to bump out of that. You want to bump America Ferrara out of there.
Absolutely, I do. That to me,
it's a joke.
It's the most ridiculous nomination I've seen
ever,
maybe ever. It's not just I don't like this kind of movie. This is of course the critics like that. There is nothing to that part.
No,
it is a throwaway part in a stupid movie anybody literally could have played.
Yeah, she brought nothing unique to the role.
I don't understand it.
I don't either.
I don't understand it.
I don't either.
It just it makes me physically like upset. Like I feel myself getting angry as I think about it.
So I watched Barbie. Was it this week? I don't know. I watched Barbie. I hadn't seen it yet. Watched it because I knew we'd be talking about the Academy Awards. I knew one way or another Barbie would be a conversation point for the Academy Awards. Whether it got rewarded or got snubbed, which we'll get into that. And I 100% agree with you. What an insult that she got a nomination. Like I said, I think this is the weakest category of the main ones, the supporting actress. And like I like Emily Blunt a lot. I think she's a really good actress. Is that an Oscar-worthy performance?
I think if she didn't have the reputation she already had going into this, there's no way. Yeah,
it's just it's kind of a weak category in my opinion. Now, I haven't seen every movie.
Right.
But I don't know. It's just kind of a weak category. And America Ferrara, okay. So why not just nominate I don't know, why not nominate Brie Larson for The Marvels? You know what I mean? Like, if we're just giving people nominations, then just let everybody get it. Like Jamie Lee Curtis for Halloween Kills, give her an Oscar nomination. Like, come on. Like, I agree with you. I don't know that I'm as passionate about it as you are, but it's ridiculous. You're right. It's a nothing part that she brought nothing unique to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine if she won? I might just turn off the broadcast. Not that I probably actually watched the live broadcast, but I might stop following what's happening.
I do have a little bit of a fear that she will. Especially now that which we'll get into, but there's backlash because Margot Robbie didn't get nominated. I'm really afraid they're going to give her the Oscar to kind of like make up for that. And at that point, like, well, this category no longer has any credibility at all.
Right. Oh my gosh. So looking at the other ones, I can just tell you with my ranking, I had America Ferrara 5th.
Absolutely.
And I did it sort of color-coded. I wrote in red if I was like, not only are they low on my list, but like I would love for them to be out, not nominated. So she was at 5 and in red. Then I had it in like a light blue. I haven't seen them, so I can't really judge. That's Danielle Brooks in The Color Purple, Jodie Foster in Nyad. I haven't seen either of those movies. Same. Nyad is on Netflix. It's been available. It's been the type of movie that I've scrolled past a half a dozen times and thought, maybe I should watch it. And then I'm like, I don't think I'm really interested. And so I just moved on.
Same.
And then The Color Purple, I'll be honest, I don't think I ever watched that movie. It's a musical that I don't think I'm the target demographic.
Me neither.
Whatsoever.
I'd be shocked if I ever saw that movie.
So then that brought me down to Emily Blunt and Divine Joy Randolph. We just said about Emily Blunt, like, this is fine, but like, there's not much to do there. So I wrote her as my second favorite choice in a category, and I wrote the smallest number 2. Like, I guess she's second.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I guess I'm really rooting for Divine Joy Randolph, who I thought was great in The Holdovers.
A movie that you really liked.
Yeah, I really liked it. And so it's like, I'd be happy for her to win, but it's really sad to look at a category where I'm going, boy, there's only one person that I would be like happy to see win.
It was a really weak category, I thought. And I just went, I had pretty much the same order, except I flipped my 1 and 2. And honestly, I just went with Emily Blunt because I've seen Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a very uninteresting category to me. And then, it's like, it was one of those things where if Emily Blunt does win, you just go like, man, was the bar... And again, I want to say this. I like her. And she is good for what she has to do in that movie, but she doesn't have a lot to do. She doesn't even have the big speech. She's got that one moment where she...
Yeah, that one moment. But when I watched it the second time, I was like, it really wasn't even as big as I remember.
It was, and it's short.
Yes.
It's like there surely was a better... And I even racked my brain a little bit. Like, is there a deserving winner that I'm not thinking of? And I really couldn't... I think Penelope Cruz should have got a nomination, but, it wouldn't have been like, oh, she's a guaranteed winner.
Right.
Just a bad year for supporting actress.
Yeah.
I thought.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on from that category since that one was
really starting things off on a positive note.
Right. Let's go to actor in a supporting role. Our nominees for that one are Sterling K. Brown from American Fiction, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things.
Yeah.
We'll say right off the bat, already a significantly better batch of nominees.
Way better.
Way better.
Yeah.
My list of people noticeably absent from it. Of course, again, going back to May, December, Charles Melton, who was, the buzz I was hearing from like people that I follow, the Big Picture podcast, things like that, were all like, man, Charles Melton might be a favorite. And then he doesn't even get the nomination.
Nothing.
I thought he was good in the movie. I would not have been upset with him.
No, that wouldn't have bothered me at all.
Especially for one of the nominees that I wasn't super big on. Then another movie which was sadly completely left out of all the Oscar nominations, From the Iron Claw.
Yeah.
Holt McElhaney, who played the dad. You could have actually picked a number of people from the Iron Claw.
I was going to say the same thing.
I tend to lean towards him. I really like that.
I would go with him too, but it wouldn't have bothered me at all if one of the brothers,
right?
Not Zac Efron, but any
Jeremy Allen White or Harris Dickinson,
wouldn't have bothered me at all. Yep.
Or even the guy who played the younger brother. Dominic Sessa from The Holdovers was one that I didn't really expect him to because he didn't really have any buzz, but I just thought The Holdovers was loved so much that maybe it would surprise me like, oh, they actually are recognizing him. So there's 3 of them. And then just my personal one that I did not expect to get a nomination, but I thought would have been really cool would have been Glenn Howerton from Blackberry. He's the guy who everybody knows from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but he plays the real life sort of business side of the BlackBerry company, and he's just angry, shouty. Like, I watched it again recently this past week. Actually, I watched it. They broke it down into like 3 episode series, which I thought they did to like give more content. But I watched the 3 and I was like, I think this is just exactly the movie broken up into 3 parts. I'm not sure why they did that.
I don't know either.
But I really enjoyed it, and I thought he was really good. So, that was the one that I was like, I didn't think he had a chance at getting nominated, but I would have loved if I was part of the Academy, I would have put him in my group of 5 to get nominated. Did you have any other thoughts on like people who got left out, or
I was kind of the same? Like? Definitely the Iron Claw. I just wrote the Iron Claw because I was willing to the dad, the brothers, and none of that would have bothered me at all. And I really didn't believe that this would happen, but I just thought maybe like Damon or Affleck might sneak one in for Air. But I don't know how much I really believe that. I just really liked Air.
Air was one for me, kind of like Oppenheimer. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Robert Downey Jr. is really deserving, and he is the front runner. But Oppenheimer, I felt like there was a half a dozen guys that could have been nominated for best, and I feel kind of same with Air. Like, you could have gone with Affleck or Bateman or
Jason Bateman.
They were all good, and so it just sort of, I think, probably canceled each other out.
Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't, it wasn't enough to upset me or anything, and that's all I had. Just the Iron Claw or maybe someone from Air.
Yeah. Did you rank your...
Yeah, and again, I hate to sound negative because I like this person. Ryan Gosling, I mean, okay, so then why didn't he get a nomination for, what's the
Nice Guys?
Yes. Why not just give him a nomination for, like...
Yeah.
And I guess we'll probably get to this as we go through this, but I just don't understand the Barbie buzz. I don't at all. And I just think, honestly, the amount of nominations they're throwing out for it, even though Margot Robbie got snubbed, is just I don't know what the right word is, just cheapening the award. Okay, so it was a popular movie that everybody loved. Well, so was Avengers Endgame, and there was no buzz for Chris Evans getting a Best Supporting Actor nomination for Captain America. And to me, it's the same thing. Like, it's a good, it was a well-received, Barbie I'm talking about, a well-received from the general, public, really popular movie. That's great. It doesn't mean everyone in it just needs an Oscar nomination.
Right.
And again, I like Ryan Gosling a lot. I can think of 8 movies that he's been better in than Barbie.
Yeah.
So that one just
makes you wonder, like, next year, is he going to be nominated for the Fall Guy?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, where does it stop then? Like, why didn't Will Ferrell get an Oscar nomination for Elf? If we're just going to dish out Oscar nominations to movies that had, buzz around them, I don't know. It's like, maybe I just wasn't meant to understand all this Barbie craze. I'm a 43-year-old guy. I just don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had him at number 5.
Yeah.
My one I wrote in red. I was like, no. This is, I think, maybe the only other categories that I've actually seen all the nominees. So that I was excited for that. As I was making my list, I didn't have to go like, well, I got to put this one here because I just haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So I had Gosling at 5. Sterling K. Brown was awesome, but he was pretty easily for me put at number 4 because this might have been, to me, the toughest category.
It's a good category.
Between the Roberts and Ruffalo, I'm like, I don't even know who I want to pick. Yeah. I wouldn't be upset with any of the 3 because I thought all 3 were awesome. Yeah. And they're,
I can tell you that I was really excited that Ruffalo got nominated.
Yeah.
I really was. I thought he was so good and so funny, and he was such a great sleazeball in that movie. And
yeah, it was such a different part for him, for sure.
Was. Yep.
And then, we've talked about it before. Like, I think we'd probably agree that Downey Jr.'s the favorite.
Oh, yeah.
The front runner that will likely win it.
I think he's going to
win.
And
I'm not at all upset with that. But I just even go like, man, De Niro was so good. And I can't believe, like, it's hard to say underrated when he's getting an Oscar nomination. But I don't feel like I hear many people talking about, like,
how good he was in that movie.
I don't hear people talking like it's likely he could win.
Yeah.
It almost feels like he's getting kind of like a courtesy nod.
I know.
But
he was so really good in that movie.
It. I'm like, I thought it was a great part. Like, I plan to rewatch the movie because it's out on Apple now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, one of the main reasons I want to rewatch it is I want to rewatch his performance because I thought it was really good.
He was so good. He was a villain, but he wasn't, like we talk about a lot, he wasn't the mustache twirling, scream and shout villain. Like, he was so good in that movie. But it's RDJ's year. Yeah. I think the Academy likes the story, the success story, and it's a great performance. I said that when we did our review of Oppenheimer. Downey's great in it.
Yeah.
And it was that nice reminder. It was like, which I think he's great as Iron Man. I don't know why everyone dumps on the MCU acting all of a sudden, but, like, I think he's great. And every Iron Man, whether the movie's good or not, he's great. But it was just that reminder of, like, this guy can act. And I think it's his year. But, a great, him and De Niro both. And I do agree with you, though. I'm a little disappointed in how little people are talking about De Niro. And like you said, it's not even feel sorry for him because he got an Oscar nomination, but it's just kind of like a little bit of an aside, it feels like. And he is really, really strong in that movie.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I said this is probably my favorite category as far as, like, I've actually seen them all in the closest to the race. If somehow Gosling comes out with this award, it's... I've said it now for 2 straight Barbie nominees. If their nominee wins it, I'll riot.
This is just an opinion. I think there's more of a chance of America Ferrera winning than I do Ryan Gosling. I really think it's Robert Downey Jr.'s year.
Yeah. And having said that, at least with Ryan Gosling, he was doing something in a movie, whereas America Ferrera
did nothing.
Literally, I cannot picture one moment of her doing something in that movie.
No.
So yeah. Any other thoughts on this supporting actor category before we move on?
Just a great category this year.
Yeah.
Really great category.
So I did rank, but I'm even looking at it now, and my ranking, I think because I know he's the favorite, I wrote Downey Jr. at 3, and then De Niro at 2, and then Ruffalo at 1. Because last night when I was doing this, I was just like, I kind of want to see Ruffalo win for this crazy performance. But these times I'm looking at it now, I'm like, I might just reorder that completely right now if I did it. So it's my favorite, but it's also the least conviction I feel about any of the winners because I'd be so okay with a couple of the people winning.
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be Downey, but De Niro or Ruffalo wouldn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I loved Ruffalo in Poor Things.
It's so funny.
It's so good.
So we'll move on to actress in a leading role. Our nominees here are Annette Bening in Naiad,
Yep.
Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Huller in Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan in Maestro, and Emma Stone in Poor Things. All right. I keep taking over this and saying all my
You're fine.
idea of who's absent. If you wanted to jump in first this time.
Yeah. I had a hard time coming up with someone who was absent. I thought maybe might have seen Natalie Portman on there from May, December, but it didn't crush me that she wasn't. I mean, I like her as an actress, but that movie to me was just fine. So I really didn't have a lot of people who were snubbed, and I think partially because to me it's so clear that Lily Gladstone's going to win. This is just my opinion. When we did our best of, I said, "Oh, Emma Stone's a shoe-in to win." I think I kind of got ahead of myself there, and then when I thought about it, I was like, "No, Lily Gladstone's going to win."
I do think it's a two-person race between those two.
And truthfully, I do think. Well, everyone knows I love Killers of the Flower Moon. Named it my best movie of the year. I think Emma Stone did have a more challenging role.
Yeah,
and that is not at all an insult to Lily Gladstone.
Well, and frankly, to me, I'm not saying she should. I think their case could be made that Gladstone could have been nominated in supporting
actress,
and I think she would have been a clear runaway favorite.
And it would have
both the best performances, I think, from females in the year could have won.
I agree completely, and it would have instantly added some credibility to this really bad supporting actress category. Yeah. Get Ferrara out of there. Because
I think I heard again, Killers of the Flower Moon is like a 3.5 hour movie that. The total screen time for Lily Gladstone is like 40 minutes. So if you look at it like that,
small percentage of the movie.
That could definitely fall in the category of supporting, and that would have balanced everything.
It would have made everything would have been right in the world because she would have been the clear winner. No, not even any close competition, and then that would have opened it up for Emma Stone to win because show me a more difficult and brave performance this year than Emma Stone in Poor Things.
Yeah.
There just isn't one, in my opinion. So, but that isn't what happened. So I've got to think that Lily Gladstone's going to pull this one out. And I'm fine with that. Yeah. It's just, unfortunately, I think she's in the wrong category. And any other year, Emma Stone would have just ran away with this. But
right. So a couple of absent ones that I had written. I did have the Natalie Portman May December.
Yeah.
Of course, we already mentioned Margot Robbie didn't get a nomination, which I'm okay with, but
too.
I still think better performance than America Ferrara.
Indeed.
Greta Lee from Past Lives is a movie that Past Lives is a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah.
She's the lead in it. I watched that this week. She is very good in it. I'm not upset she didn't get nominated. I wouldn't have been upset if she was nominated because it was just it was a good, pretty. Not simple, but calm story, not a spectacle by any means, and she's good in it. So I wouldn't have been upset with her being nominated. I have not seen, like I said, Naiad, so I don't know about Annette Bening's performance. I've not seen Anatomy of a Fall yet. I want to see it.
Same.
I hear Sandra Huller's great in it.
Yeah.
So I'm reserving judgment till I see that. I didn't like Maestro. Everybody knows that. So my Carey Mulligan thing. Carey Mulligan and Bradley Cooper are both the same in that movie to me. In that I'm I don't know if it's great acting or terrible acting because they're so cartoonish almost. Yeah. And I'm maybe the people were exactly like that.
Maybe they were, but
it's hard to watch and not be well, you are really doing something. They're doing the most acting I've seen in any movies.
Yeah. I saw that. So I wasn't surprised. Because, I've said this before, the Academy loves. So
I guess that is a streaming movie that the Academy
did recognize quite a bit. But they picked the wrong one. Holy cow! I would have taken any other streaming movie other than Maestro to get the nominations that it got.
Yeah, and then I wrote just as a note, a couple of these categories I wrote people who didn't have a chance of being nominated, but I would have thought it was cool if they were. Was Caitlin Dever from No One Will Save You, which we talked about at our reunion thing. That would have been such a fun thing, but of course, that movie didn't have a prayer of being Oscar nominated.
That's and I didn't even write that down, but I thought it because there's a 0% chance. I hope one day the Academy will learn to recognize performances like that.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not a better performance. And again, I'm not trying to just dump all over this person. Tell me that's not a more difficult, harder to pull off performance than America Ferrera in Barbie.
Yeah, 1,000 times.
I mean, 1,000 times. I'm just going to say it. It's a better performance than Carey Mulligan in Maestro.
Yeah.
It just is. But that movie, it's dead on arrival as far as the Academy is concerned. They're just not going to nominate stuff like that. And that movie was inventive and creative, and she had to do so much with so little in that movie. And, play scared and tough, and she had this past trauma, and she did so much in the confines of an alien home invasion, essentially almost a silent movie. And I would love for her to get recognized for something like that.
Yeah.
Or a movie to get recognized. A movie like that to get recognized.
And then the other name I wrote was, and I'm going to mispronounce this, Priya Kansara from Polite Society, which is another movie I talked about. Another movie that didn't have a chance at Oscar recognition. But as I was going through my list and I was trying to think, well, who are the great female performances that didn't get recognized? Those are two movies where I thought, boy, I loved both of those lead performances, and neither one had a chance of winning. So again, I did my ranking, had Carey Mulligan at 5 because and then the two I hadn't seen at 3 and 4, and then. As much as I kind of go back and forth with Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone, I end up going Lily Gladstone 2 and Emma Stone 1 because I just thought
I'd be inclined to do the same.
I think Emma Stone was just like you said, you summed it up very well. Show me a performance that's braver and more challenging and
again, I don't say that with any disrespect towards Lily Gladstone.
No, I mean, it was so good,
and really, you nailed it. Everything would have been right in the world if they would have put her in supporting. Let Emma Stone have the actor.
We've seen bigger stretches where people have done that, where movies have pushed people into supporting that were less supporting than Lily Gladstone just because they knew there was a better chance of the win.
Absolutely. The Academy does that all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time. So.
All right. So going to actor in a leading role.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. So our nominees are Bradley Cooper for Maestro.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Coleman Domingo for Rustin, a movie that I had passed over on Netflix several times and watched about 10 seconds of the preview clip that comes up, and I'm like, nope. and when I saw that he got it, I was like, this is the most out of nowhere, what the heck?
It's almost like sometimes they feel like it's like every year they have to find man, we got to pull some surprise out of our hat, and this was it this year. Honestly, when I read that, I was like. What is that? I had to think for a minute, what is that movie? I didn't even know. It took me a second to kind of recall that movie. That was a really weird nomination.
Definitely.
Especially when you consider who didn't get nominated.
Oh, man, my list for this one's pretty long. Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers.
I figured that would make you happy.
Yeah. Cillian Murphy. I'm going to say it right this time. Cillian Murphy. I know how to pronounce it. I'm telling you, people, there's something about when you actually sit down to do these podcasts, your brain goes to mush.
Oh, my gosh.
You forget how words work.
Oh, my gosh. I was listening to our old episodes today, and I keep calling Oppenheimer Oppenheimer. 20 times, and I just wanted to throw something at my own TV and yell at myself, you're an idiot. You know it's not called Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And I said that so many times.
And I said Cillian so many times. What happens is you look at it and you go, okay, I know it's not pronounced the way that you're going to initially think, but then you get used to the way it's right, but you keep using that logic of it's not the way you think, and then you swap it back.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy, and then finally Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board with 3 of those nominations, being Giamatti, Murphy, and Wright. Cooper, get that right out of here.
Get out of there. And again, I like Bradley Cooper.
I do too.
But no.
I'm learning, though, poor Bradley Cooper, who describes himself as, I saw him in an interview saying, I think I've always been a filmmaker, sort of trapped in an actor's career. And I'm like, buddy, I think you're a better actor
Just act,
than a filmmaker.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
Just keep acting.
And then I don't... The Coleman Domingo thing, I'm not even going to go back and watch Rustin. I have zero opinion on that nomination other than it's weird and completely out of left field. Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. There's a 0% chance anybody wins except for Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer.
That's my thinking.
0% chance. He's winning that Oscar.
Yeah. Boy, it would be super shocking. if anybody else won. I mean, even Giamatti, who I think is probably considered the second, best odds.
I think it's a distant second.
Yeah, I
though.
think it is too.
Yeah.
So noticeably absent, Leonardo DiCaprio from Killers of the Flower Moon.
I could not believe that.
That is, yeah.
I couldn't believe
especially with like the Coleman Domingo one. It's
that's the thing where it's like, don't punish the guy for being good in everything he's in. Like I read that somewhere. It's like, well, he's gotten a ton of nominations. So what? If he deserves them, he deserves them. And I think he deserved it for that movie.
Yeah. And then honestly, like the only other one that I think had a real chance, and I don't think people would have argued if you say like they should have been in there, is the Zac Efron Iron Claw.
That was mine.
Absence.
That was mine.
And
I was really rooting for him to get nominated.
I do too, because I think he's good, but like, I'm not supporting what you just said about Leo's gotten plenty of love, but Leo I know is going to be okay. He'll be nominated again.
He's going to win again, I guarantee.
We might end up looking back on Zac Efron's career and saying he had one shot to get that recognition, and we just right over it.
Because he is good in that movie.
Really good.
He's really good at it. That last scene when he's sitting there crying and he has that moment with his boys, that was touching.
It's a great moment.
It was an unbelievable moment. He's like, you kind of felt a little lump in your throat. You're like, man, Zac Efron just like, he just got me. And he also, and I do think you should factor this in. He physically transformed himself for that movie.
I do think for some reason, getting like really big and jacked and swole for a movie gets no respect for the Academy. But if you lose a bunch of weight and get like skinny and anorexic,
guaranteed nomination.
Exactly. I'm like, it's sort of a weird thing.
And he learned to wrestle for that movie, even though wrestling is staged and everything. He went, like I was researching this, he went through a lot of training and he did the physical.
Got real injuries doing it.
Yeah, like he committed himself, and I don't know what else you could have wanted from that performance. So I was really rooting for Zac Efron to get a nomination. Yeah. He's 20 times better in Iron Claw than Bradley Cooper is in Maestro.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe if he had spent 6 years just to recreate something, they would have recognized it.
I know. I was really disappointed in that, and I definitely, like you said, Leo's going to be fine.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine. I can almost guarantee you he'll win another Oscar before he calls it a day.
Yeah.
But I still think you have to recognize the performances. And, I think maybe it wouldn't have bothered me so much if Coleman Domingo didn't get nominated.
Yeah.
That would just,
I feel bad. Like, we're not even bashing on Coleman Domingo. It's just like, dude, nobody saw this movie.
Nobody knows this movie. Like, Leo, like, I talked about it when we did our review. He had to play dumb but sneaky and charming and evil, and he did a lot in that movie. And he is, front and center in a 3.5-hour movie and more than carried his own in it. I didn't expect him to win because, like I said, I think it's Cillian Murphy's year, but I just couldn't believe he got shut out.
Yeah. Some other names I wrote down. I wrote down the two names that I'm not surprised didn't get nominated, but I think when the movies were probably made with the expectation maybe they get nominated. That's Joaquin Phoenix and Napoleon. Mm-hmm. Kind of glad to see he didn't get nominated.
I was really glad he didn't get nominated.
Well, that's a movie that just got shut out.
I had no problem with that.
I don't either, and I think it's the right decision. But I'm just, when it came out,
it had an Oscar bait written all over it.
And then Adam Driver and Ferrari, another movie that just got shut out for all intents and purposes. Michael Mann and Ridley Scott, both respected filmmakers,
completely shut out,
respected cast.
Yep.
And then their movies just didn't hit.
I liked Adam Driver and Ferrari. I didn't think he was going to get a nomination.
No, like after watching it, I didn't think that. No. I just, if he would have, I would have thought this is the Academy likes this guy, and it's in a movie that from a filmmaker they like type kind of shoe in.
Yeah. I was honestly like nothing against him, but I was glad that Joaquin Phoenix didn't get a nomination for Napoleon. Like we talked about, there were parts where it was just like, dude, are you just sleepwalking through this performance? Like, it was a strange performance.
Definitely. And then the other names I wrote down, which are ones that, again, not surprised they didn't get nominated, but I would have been just fine and happy to see them, is we are talking about Damon and Air. Mm-hmm. Michael Fassbender in The Killer. That's what I would have really liked.
I forgot to mention that. I did have that written down.
And then Jake Gyllenhaal in The Covenant, which is a movie, again, I'm not surprised didn't get nominated, but I just thought Gyllenhaal was really good at it.
I apologize. I didn't mention Fassbender. I wish, that would have been like Cillian Murphy, DiCaprio, Fassbender, Paul Giamatti, and Zac Efron. Mm-hmm. That would have been an amazing Amazing 5 nominations.
Yeah. And, I'm sure that the Academy would say, yes, of course, 2 white guys sitting around talking about a full list of white guys being nominated.
Right.
And it's a sad thing where, like, I try to be really cautious not to be that. But those are just my favorite performances I saw this year. I will say, like, I love Jeffrey Wright and American Fiction.
He's great.
He was really good. And I'm really happy to see him get nominated. I don't think he has a chance of winning.
No.
But it was a really good performance in a movie that had, frankly, my favorite joke of the year in any movie. And it was part of the satire when they're voting on. Have you seen the movie?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Well, I won't spoil it then.
That's all right. I like to.
It's a small joke. It's not like a joke where, like, the theater bust out laughing. Yeah. I was just cackling at the moment. So thought that was a good one. Just want to make sure, like, it's one of those movies that, American Fiction, I really enjoyed, and I'm happy to see it get some nominations, and I don't think it's going to win any of them, and I'll be okay with it not winning. I just thought it was really good.
Yeah.
All right. Ready to move on to directing?
Sure.
Okay. So our nominees for Best Director are, it's just called directing in the category. Anatomy of a Fall, Justine Triet. Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese. Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan. Poor Things, Yorgos Lanthimos. And The Zone of Interest, Jonathan Glazer. Right off the bat, I'm a little disappointed. I haven't seen 2 of them. I already said Anatomy of a Fall. I haven't seen The Zone of Interest.
That's not our fault, though. Yeah. It is impossible to find Zone of Interest anywhere.
Yeah, it has not.
It's not been around here.
I am happy to report, though, it looks like it's going to be showing this coming weekend at least the AMC in Champaign.
Great.
So I am like, I'm not
going to try really hard to get up there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got basketball games Friday and Saturday, so it's going to be hard to do, but I'm hoping I can find a time to sneak away and go see Zone of Interest.
Just like leave a note for your basketball players. Like, okay, score a lot of points, win the game. That's right. My coaching. I'll be at the movies.
Exactly. But besides those 2, I'm really happy to see the other 3 that got nominated. Nolan, Scorsese, and Lanthimos would have all been, if I made the list of 5, they would have all been on my list.
Yep. Agreed.
Noticeably absent from this one, of course, again, Greta Gerwig for Barbie. I think a lot of people thought she would get nominated.
I really thought she would.
I honestly, like, of all the nominations that could have happened, I was like, okay, she did some creative things in that story, and, like, I wouldn't have picked her. I wouldn't have wanted her to win or anything, but, like, I would have at least kind of understood.
It would have made
I understand America Ferrera.
Absolutely. Just to be clear, we are not happy that America Ferrera, I don't know if we've made that point clear yet or not. We do not like that she got an Oscar nomination.
Not my favorite, for sure.
I just want to clear up any confusion there may be. No. Her, I guess, vision for that movie, leading it to become, I looked, it's like the 14th highest grossing movie ever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I agree with you. Like, she wouldn't have won. That would have made a little bit of sense to me, though. Yeah.
I think, if it was going to get any of these nominations in any of the categories we did, that's the one I would have most understood.
Very well said.
Of course, Fincher for The Killer.
Fincher.
I know I think it just comes down to the type of movie that it is.
But therein lies my biggest problem with the Academy Awards. Because it should make no difference what kind of movie it is.
Right, because you can watch Mank and go, well, I know this is going to get a bunch of nominations, and it did. And watch The Killer.
I know this probably isn't
way more than you like Mank, and go like, well, this is going to get 0 nominations, and you're right.
That just drives me nuts. And look, I'm not saying, like, don't hear me say this wrong, but it's like, I'm not saying the Russo brothers should have got nominated for Avengers Endgame. But I don't think it should just be an automatic dismissal that it's out of the realm of possibility. When you go, man, these guys tackled the culmination of like 20-something movies, balanced all these characters and timelines, and they constructed this amazing scene where everybody comes back from the snap and all that stuff. But it's just like you 100% know that it's not even a conversation. And that just drives me nuts. Same with The Killer, where, like when we did that episode, we were like, I really hope they'll recognize Fincher. And then as the awards grew closer, I had not heard his name brought up one time. And it's like, they're not. They're just going to completely overlook this movie.
It really does feel like they've kind of missed the whole point of the expanding the nominees, because it all happened, we know, because of the Dark Knight. It didn't get nominated, and people were like, how could you not nominate this movie that was hugely successful, incredibly well done, respected in every way, and it was just ignored because it was a superhero movie, essentially. And they said, well, let's expand the category. That way we can have a little more room to recognize movies like this. And then you look at like a list from this year, and it's like, yeah, what movie falls under that type of category?
Yeah.
I guess maybe you could argue Barbie, but it was recognized pretty well anyways as a non-traditional Oscar-type movie. It's pretty much just 10 typical Oscar-type nominees. They really didn't recognize anything uniquely populous.
Yeah. And that was the last time I really had hope when they did change that. It was like, okay, they changed that because they knew that Dark Knight should have done. And I was hoping maybe you'd see some horror or some, like more of like the highbrow action kind of creep in, not to win necessarily, but at least get recognized. And it hasn't happened hardly at all.
Yeah. So some other names absent from directing: Bradley Cooper for Maestro. Again, of all it got plenty of nominations.
Not that though.
I wonder how Bradley Cooper feels, because again, I think the thing he most thinks about himself now is
prestige film director.
And I think if he could have picked him being nominated for Best Director over all the other categories, like the 2 acting nominations, a Best Picture nomination, I think he would have most wanted the director, and they shut him out from that. And it doesn't make me laugh because I'm trying to be mean to Cooper and Maestro. No. I just think it is funny because I think that's the thing he put all his heart into. And they're like, we'll throw you some acting nominations, but you're not getting director, and it probably just breaks his heart.
Yeah.
Already talked about it. Not surprised at all, but Mann and Ridley Scott for their movies, like they didn't get there. And then the one I wrote down that if I was making the list, if it was my choice, not surprising. We already talked about it on here. Takashi Yamazaki for Godzilla Minus One. I would have loved to have seen him get a directing nomination. I think it would have been well deserved.
I would have. I thought that, and this may sound ridiculous, I would have loved to have seen Chris McQuarrie get recognized for Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yeah.
I know there was 0% chance of that. But again, why are you just disqualified? Because it's an action movie. I mean, you're recognizing the director for their skill and for their ability to construct this movie. How challenging was it? How challenging is it to pull off these Mission Impossible movies and make them as good as they are?
Yeah.
Same with the director of Godzilla Minus One. It's like you took a Godzilla movie and just elevated it to such a high level. And I agree with you completely. I would love to see those people, those type of movies get some recognition.
Yeah. I tell you what really shocked me is Godzilla Minus One got some technical nominations.
Yeah.
And good for it. I'm glad they can say now it's an Oscar nominated movie. But not in the categories that really grab people's attention. What really shocked me though is it's not even nominated for Best Foreign Film. And I'm like, how?
And I guarantee, I don't know this because I didn't pay that much attention. You watch the ones that did get nominated, and I bet you at least some of them are just boring.
There's definitely some art house,
boring. Try your best to stay awake during this movie. Whereas Godzilla Minus One, I was like, oh, it's over already? I just felt like that was a 45-minute long movie. So yeah, it's unfortunate that the things that, it's just unfortunate that there's just certain things that you just know aren't even considered.
Yeah. So getting down to the ones that are nominated, I said I was really happy about the 3. If I was ranking them, I'd have Lanthimos third. I'd have Scorsese second. I think this is Nolan's year.
Same. I agree with you completely. And coming from a guy who's the number 1 Scorsese fan, it's Nolan's year.
Yeah.
Kudos to Scorsese, though. He did become, the oldest or the most nominated living director. He surpassed some kind of record.
I can believe it.
Yeah. It's like his 10th nomination. He's only won 1, which is crazy. He should have 3, in my opinion.
And he won for The Departed, right?
Departed.
Which is a fine movie.
It is,
just
but
surprising.
He didn't win for Goodfellas or Raging Bull or Taxi Driver, which is absurd. But anyway, I won't get into all that. I agree with you completely. It's Nolan's year. He's going to win. I guarantee. And I'm really happy about that. I've been a Nolan fan since, I saw Memento and I was like, this movie's awesome. Who is this guy? And then we talked about, once he did the Dark Knight movies, it was like, all I need to know is Christopher Nolan movie. Yeah. That's all it takes to get me in the theater now. Yeah. So I'm really happy for him.
As respected as he still is a little too much of a popular culture filmmaker to really get that Oscar attention. And this feels like his Oscar picture.
Oh, yeah.
It's maybe he'll make more of that feel like this type of Oscar-worthy movie. But I feel like this is going to be the exception. He's going to go back to more kind of like sci-fi, psychological, like action-y.
I heard he's circling like James Bond, and I really hope he doesn't do that. I don't like James Bond.
No.
I just personally.
I don't either.
Like, come on, Nolan, write something original. Like, don't do James Bond.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So we're going to move on to Best Picture. But this is going to be the one category where I don't read everything that comes with it because always the nominees are these producers who you've never heard of, who I've never heard of. And
it's better. You're better just to list the movies.
I agree with many people who say, like, when a movie wins for Best Picture, don't send the producers up to accept it. Send the director up. I know that the directors have their own award, but it's still their film. It's still mostly theirs. Like,
and you don't know who these producers are usually.
If Oppenheimer wins, now Nolan is one of the producers. He'll be up there. But if it's Emma Thomas or Charles Roven talking, I'm going to be like, get out of there.
Emma Thomas is Christopher Nolan's wife. Just a little aside.
As soon as you started to say that, I was like, oh, I remember reading that his wife was a producer.
But yeah, you were exactly. If Oppenheimer wins, which I believe it will, you want to hear from Nolan.
Yeah,
like that's who you want to hear from.
It's his baby from start to finish.
Absolutely.
So our nominees, I'm just going to name the picture: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. All right. With 10 nominees, there isn't a lot of, oh, look, this movie didn't make it and didn't get the nomination.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't bother writing any that were like, I heard a lot of buzz about this one, and look, it didn't get nominated. I mean, maybe I could have written May, December, but whatever. Didn't care. I wrote a couple that I would have liked to have seen nominated if it were my picks: The Killer, Godzilla Minus One, The Iron Claw, Air, those type of movies. The one that I think could have been nominated and didn't, and not that I'm super upset about this, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah. I'd actually heard
a little bit.
Buzz could get a nomination, and it didn't. So I was like, would have loved to have seen that in one of the two places that I could very easily vacate and be happy to see.
Maestro and Barbie.
Yeah. You could go ahead and punt those two right out of the nominees.
Absolutely. You think of like the Spider-Verse movie, like so fun and so unique and all these things that to me Barbie wasn't. You just think of Maestro and you just go, just the most uneventful, boring movie. And there is this label about like these Oscar movies sometimes, and people just associate them with being just dull and boring.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate. That's why, like I said, it might sound ridiculous, but give me, The Killer, give me Mission Impossible, give me some of these movies where you go, okay, now the Academy is willing to kind of relax a little bit. Not everything has to be so highbrow, and some of their stuff is weird, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. So I made my rankings, put Maestro at 10 and Barbie at 9. Can you believe there's a movie that I would rather see Barbie win than it?
Yeah.
And there is.
That's
Maestro.
how little you want Maestro to win. Yeah.
So those two, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping there's not. I don't think that there's a prayer either of those win.
I don't think so.
But
I don't think so.
Just in case. And then, of course, again, Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest haven't seen yet, so I had to rank those next. So starting at Past Lives, I put that at 6 because of the movies I've seen and actually like somewhat, at least. Like I said, good movie, enjoyable. Fine that you got the nomination, but that's as far as it goes.
That's as far as it goes for you.
It's not a movie I'm going to revisit. I'm not going to go around telling people like, oh, you haven't seen Past Lives, you got to see Past Lives. It's just like, oh, did you see it? No, what'd you think? Oh, it was pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
And
I think
that's about all you have to say about it. Yeah.
And then it gets hard. Like the top 5 are all very competitive for me. I actually had Killers of the Flower Moon at number 5. I'm sure that'll be your number 1. Sorry, I'm just, number 4, Poor Things. Number 3, American Fiction. Number 2, The Holdovers. Number 1, Oppenheimer. Is how I went with it.
Yeah.
And again, once I got to the top 5, could I redo that list right now and end up ranking it entirely differently? Probably, except for the one thing that's going to stay consistent is I'm going to have Oppenheimer at number 1.
Yeah, it's actually my number 1 too. Whereas Killers of the Flower Moon was my favorite movie of the year. I'm factoring in what I think is going to win, and it's Oppenheimer's year.
Yeah,
it just is. It's got the momentum. It's got the buzz. And like I said, when I ranked my 1 and 2, I had Killers of the Flower Moon at 1, Oppenheimer at 2. It was a photo finich. So I'm not upset at all. I just don't think it's, any other year, I'd be championing for Killers of the Flower Moon for sure. But I'm perfectly fine with Oppenheimer winning, and I think it will.
Yeah. I really don't know if there's a surprise winner. I don't know what it would be.
I don't know. And sometimes they do that. Like, I always think of the year that Saving Private Ryan came out, and Spielberg won director, and everyone was like, well, obviously that's the best picture of the year. And then Shakespeare in Love wins best picture. It's like they do that sometimes just to, I don't know. I don't, like, I love movies. I love the, following what movies have won over the years and stuff, but I don't understand the behind the scenes of Oscar voting. I'll just say that right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, Shakespeare in Love? Like, are you kidding me? And it just seems like sometimes they do that. So, it's easy to be like, Oppenheimer, it's Oppenheimer's year, but sometimes they pull some weird stuff out of their hats. So
it kind of makes me think of this list. It kind of makes me think of like the 2015 year in movies. If I'm remembering my years correctly, that's the year Spotlight won it. And Spotlight, to me, it wasn't even in my top 5 movies. It was in my top 10. And I wasn't even upset with Spotlight winning because, like, that's a really good movie. It just wouldn't have been the one that I picked.
Right.
Like I would have picked a couple others ahead of it, but it was really good, so okay. And I feel kind of like that this year. Like, if they picked The Holdovers, I'll be like, okay, it's a really good movie. Like, I'm okay with it. But I'll be more surprised, I think, than that. Like, Spotlight, there was not a heavy favorite that year like there was with Oppenheimer this year. It was more just like there's a lot of movies that I like. This year there's a lot of movies I like, but there's a clear front-running favorite. So it does feel more like the Saving Private Ryan year.
Yeah, I just hope they don't try and get clever like that or whatever they think they're doing. So, I look, I love Scorsese. I love Killers of the Flower Moon. It just seems like it's Oppenheimer's year. And I've been a Christopher Nolan fan, so I'm fine with that. But it looks like, to me, it's possible that Oppenheimer could do picture, director, actor, supporting actor, maybe supporting actress. I imagine it'll win a screenplay award.
Yeah.
And you guarantee it's going to win like all the sound and that kind of like there's like sound and sound effects editing and all this stuff. So
yeah, it could win like costume design.
Yeah.
I probably won't. I think that will go to something else. Yeah, that could go to.
It might go to Killers of the Flower Moon.
Could go to Poor Things.
It could. Oh yeah, it could go to Poor Things. Yeah.
But you just never know. Like it. But I think I'm with you. Like it's gonna. I think win a lot of. I think it's awards.
7 to 10 awards. I bet would be my guess. Unless like I said, unless Barbie wins Best Picture, and if that's the case, then this might be our last Oscars podcast ever because we'll just be like, look, I don't know what's happening anymore.
Then again, maybe it'll be the very reason why we have an Oscars follow-up podcast, because sometimes we're at our best when we're angry and ranting, and we'll just
it's just
an hour of us yelling about Barbie winning.
Oh yeah,
we'll have to find a fan of Barbie and bring them in as our guest. And just I need you to defend Barbie while we're yelling at you and berating you,
giving you no chance to talk. I will say this about Barbie. Here's my argument, because I did see where people were really mad. Like, really, really mad that Margot Robbie didn't get nominated. Look, Margot Robbie's a great actress. She's phenomenal. I've never seen her give a bad performance. My advice is just be like, you know what? Barbie was a global phenomenon. Just be happy in that. There's your win right there. That movie, literally, I looked. It made $1.4 billion. Yeah. So, like, just be happy with that. That's my advice.
Oh, gosh. I posted a video on Instagram today where I went on a rant. I did a review of Book of Clarence yesterday, and I had to post an extra video. It's like, guys, I need to rant about the fact that Book of Clarence is basically out of theaters now after earning like $5 million.
Dude, it bombed so bad.
And like, then you hear the numbers of some of these other movies, like the Barbie movie going over $1 billion. It's like we can't get to $10 million for Book of Clarence.
Barbie,
it's
million,
deeply
almost
upsetting.
$1.5 billion.
Man,
I know.
See original movies, please.
So it's like sometimes I really think like, man, I know my movies and I understand the box office, and then there's just stuff like this where it's like I don't understand this at all, not at all, not even kind of. So
yeah. So we'll end with this. I think we said it. Oppenheimer's year, Nolan's year, and I think we're going to be pretty happy with that.
I'm happy with that.
I think if that does happen, I'll be like, good. I'm back. The Oscars are back on my good side.
Yeah, and I want to end on this note too. Of like, I said a lot of negative things, but like, it was a win to me. I was super invested in the Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer, Robert Downey Jr. and Robert De Niro. Like, there was a lot of positives that came out of the Oscars this year, and I don't want it to sound all negative. I mean, there were some things that I'll tell you this: I cared a lot more this year than I have in I can't remember how long. There was the years of like The Shape of Water winning, where it was like I just absolutely couldn't care less about any of this in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that got a rise out of you when I said that. Yeah.
The Shape of Water, like, I watched it. It's not that it's a bad movie, but man,
Best Picture?
I do not spend any time thinking about, remember The Shape of Water?
And it won Best Picture.
Yeah.
You're like, this is the best movie of the year?
Yeah.
Anyway.
It wasn't.
It was not.
It just won the award.
It was not. It did. My point being, like,
Yeah.
even though I had complaints and maybe I sounded a little bit negative, the movies that came out, the interest in the race and stuff, like the supporting actor is a good example, De Niro versus Downey, brought me back closer than I've ever been to liking the Oscars for a really long time.
Yeah. All right. Well, be sure, everybody, if you've listened or watched, comment, tell us what you think. Tell us if you like the nominees. Maybe you love Barbie and Maestro and you want to tell us why we're wrong. Do it.
Do it. I couldn't agree with you more. I would love to find the biggest Barbie fan and get them on here and let's just talk. Let's talk about Barbie.
Yeah.
Also, go see Godzilla Minus One.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us.
Yep.
And we will see you guys again next week.
Yes, we will.